This is The Blockchain Show. The Blockchain Show is a podcast that demystifies and promotes widespread adoption of cryptocurrencies and distributed ledger technology. This is episode number 58. In this episode, Ethan, Mark, and Ian interview Tricia Martinez from Walla in South Africa. After that, Ian talks blockchain with author Jamil Hasan.
The Blockchain Show.
So tell us about Walla.
We honestly did so much research on words that would not have a negative connotation in hundreds and hundreds of languages because we touch so many markets throughout Africa and Asia as well as Latin America. So it was honestly one of the only words that had a positive meaning in almost every language.
Excellent. And your partner token, or the token that sits on your ecosystem, is that pronounced dollar as in dollar bill, or dala as in mandala?
No, dollar, like dollar bills.
dollar bills. Cool.
Yeah. So Walla is the launch partner of the dollar utility token. We're completely separate entities. But if it helps, it might make sense for me to give some background on Walla, what we do, and why we've decided to issue a token specifically for emerging market consumers. Yes?
That sounds like a great idea. Why don't you tell us all about it? Give us the pitch.
I'm the founder and CEO of Walla. My co-founder, Samer Saab, is our chief of product. We actually met in the U.S. We're both American serial entrepreneurs. I have a background in behavioral economics and actually spent my career working in microfinance in sub-Saharan Africa. And I, before Walla, I actually started a company where we built technology to send and to enable unconditional cash transfers, which are essentially universal income. So we were creating a system to support subsistence farmers, help them invest in their lives. And then, through building this technology, we actually ran into a problem, which was that consumers in these rural villages would receive a large, a year's worth of income from us. They would go to an agent, so like an ATM type individual. They would, show them their mobile money transfer. They would take that money cashed out and put it in a village cash box or bury it in their huts. And so I was conflicted, couldn't keep pushing this forward, even though the actual cash transfers were extremely impactful in these farmers' lives. But it kind of opened up a bigger problem for me, which was the fact that consumers throughout emerging markets, not just, subsistence farmers at the bottom of the pyramid, but emerging middle-class consumers generally don't have a safe, cheap, or accessible place to store and grow their money. And so that's when I decided to go back and start conducting more research, engaging with consumers on the ground, mainly in Uganda. I started talking to a lot of what I define as the underbanked, so consumers who are generally educated professionals. They could have a bank account if they want to, but just choose not to because they're savvy enough to realize they could save more money operating in cash, and the overall experience is pretty poor with a lot of these banks. So that was what was so fascinating to me. And what ended up happening was I created a simple Facebook group because so many consumers through word of mouth started reaching out to me. They heard that this American woman was providing financial guidance, and they wanted to ask me questions. I'm not a financial advisor by any means, so I was surprised by this. But on a daily basis, I started posting tips on, the importance to save money, why you should open up a bank account, how to start a budget and track your spending and income. And in that first month of creating this group, it grew to over 100,000 consumers organically. And this was mainly in Kampala, Uganda, which is the biggest city there. So that I was, in shock. That's when the red light went on for me. I realized there was some big opportunity and problem that needed to be solved. That's when Samer, my co-founder, joined me. And we ended up growing this community, and in 5 months, expanded it to over 1 million people, touching over 100 markets. And so we used the community to start testing things. We wanted to see how we could influence financial behavior with rewards and incentives. And that's really why the community started growing. And we quickly discovered that the two major problems emerging market finances are based on two things: costs and access. A lot of consumers have geographical issues. They don't have the right identification. They're intimidated by the banking system. So that's the access issue. And the other piece is purely cost. It costs a lot of money for a lower income consumer to have a bank account. So to deposit money, to transfer money, withdraw, to hold, everything comes with a fee. And that has disincentivized consumers, and it forces them to operate outside of the system. So we created this community and started testing prototypes, and we said we need to create a platform that creates more efficiency in the system, that removes fees completely, and enables consumers to get access to all the financial products and services they need. So Walla, it's an Android application. We describe it almost as an Amazon for financial services. So we're the platform that brings in banks, loan providers, insurance providers. We digitize their products, put them on our platform, and then we bring in all these consumers. Like I said, we have 1 million people who have signed up. They're waiting to use the product. It's live in Uganda right now with a few hundred beta users. We have multiple bank partners, one in Uganda, one in Zimbabwe, which we just announced. But to really fulfill on enabling zero-fee financial services, we recognized we needed to operate on the blockchain. And that's where the dollar utility token comes in.
That's really interesting, and something that kind of strikes me. We're very privileged in the what I call the developed world, and it's not meant to be offensive to anybody. That's just the way I look at it. I'm here in London, Ethan in California, Ian in Florida, and we don't really have that insight as to what the emerging markets, what the developing world has to face. As far as I'm aware and concerned, technology and blockchain type technology and making it accessible to individuals very heavily dependent on kind of the smartphone market and mobile technology to make it work at a local level. Have you faced challenges in the infrastructure, in the local kind of mobile and smartphone technology that make it hard to reach people you want to reach in Uganda and in Zimbabwe? Or is that getting easier as time passes?
Yeah, that's a great question. So to kind of paint the picture, the number that we use in terms of consumers in emerging markets is 3.5 billion. So literally half of the global population operates outside of the formal financial system. And it's a massive number, obviously. The consumers that we really target are the 1.5 to 2 billion within that number. These are what we call underbanked. So they are generally urban-based, younger professionals. They might be educated. A lot of them have smartphones or are moving towards smartphones, but they just choose not to use the financial system, even though they technically could go get a bank account if they chose to, or they're using mobile money systems. The smartphone population base within emerging markets is growing exponentially. So in Uganda, for example, about 30% smartphone usage. Like I said, we target these underbanked consumers, and within that underbanked consumer base, the numbers are significantly higher for smartphone penetration. So we've had 1 million people sign up in these communities we've created. They're all smartphone users. And as smartphones become cheaper and cheaper, there's rumors always about like a $10 smartphone, a $5 smartphone. And the next year, they'll be, extremely accessible to the vast majority of consumers because they'll be priced significantly lower than what they are now. So a part of our strategy is, of course, supporting the expansion of smartphone usage by providing them at a lower cost, and to providing smartphones consumers on a loan basis, so they can take out a loan with us and get a Walla smartphone and use the platform directly from there.
Okay, cool, thank you. And again, you mentioned Zimbabwe, and I think Ian and I touched on how we saw a surge in Bitcoin hoarding due to the results, or due to the situation in Zimbabwe around Robert Mugabe being kind of changed from being president to not being president anymore, being locked up in his home for a while. What we are aware of from in the UK certainly, and then probably in the US as well, Zimbabwe has huge financial issues to deal with. Huge inflation, the huge devaluing in inverted commas of their currency, and how they're printing $10 million notes that are worth less than the price of a loaf of bread. That's kind of the picture that we get certainly in London. How does those factors influence your rollout? How do you hope to help with those issues of huge inflation and huge financial problems in places like Zimbabwe?
Yeah, that's a great question. So obviously Zimbabwe for us is one of the most exciting opportunities because the market is a perfect example of a use case that is ready for mass disruption in terms of cryptocurrency. There's massive demand from consumers, the devaluing of their currency, it's I would say there are a number of other emerging markets in Africa that deal with volatility in currency, but nothing is like Zimbabwe.
If you fix it there, you can fix it anywhere, I guess.
Yeah, but I would also say there is the mindset of the consumer. They're so ready to adapt a new system, like a different type of currency, because they are struggling for something. Whereas in other markets, even though there's significant volatility, there isn't so much of a dire need for something else. But what's interesting, and the reason for really issuing a utility token specifically designed for this consumer base is because of Bitcoin's failures. So Zimbabwe is a good example. Just last week, Bitcoin was priced at 16,500 per one on the local exchange in Zimbabwe called Galix. The issue with consumers using Bitcoin in any of these markets is that, right, the costs are very high. The processing time is very long. So just imagine a consumer wanting to go to their corner store and purchase, a loaf of bread, like you said. If they're going to have to wait 10 minutes to process the transaction, then they're going to have to pay a fee that's even higher than the transaction amount. So it just doesn't make sense for a consumer in these markets to use it. One of the most fascinating stats to me is that last year alone, $269 billion were processed in mobile money transactions. So mobile money, if you guys aren't familiar, is mobile network operators, which are like an AT&T, so a telecom company providing the ability to consumers to purchase airtime data on their phone and transfer money from phone to friends. So $269 billion were moved last year alone. 2/3 of those were less than 80 cents in value. So this is the problem. Consumers in emerging markets are sending micro payments on a regular basis. So they will never be able to adopt a currency like Bitcoin because it's too expensive for them. And it just doesn't make sense. That's why they continue to use cash, or they'll use mobile money even though it comes with fees. With Dala, we're issuing this to enable instantaneous zero-fee micropayments. We're designing it specifically for the micropayment consumer. A lot of people say there's use cases for the remittances. Yes, of course, but remittances are generally larger payments. And the issue, in order for a consumer to really adopt a new cryptocurrency, they need to be using it on a day-to-day basis. They need to be able to send to people, to transact with it, to cash in, to cash out. It needs to hit all pieces of their life. And that's what we've designed the Dala utility token to do. So now in Zimbabwe, consumers can, transfer cross-border with Dala. They can go to the corner store and purchase with Dala. They could potentially get paid in dollar, where it's not as volatile as their local currency, but it actually enables them to send micropayments and pay for products that are significantly lower in value.
Now, selfishly, and I do have to look at things from my perspective. And I've been to Africa once in my life, and it was a fantastic time, and it was on vacation. How can this help people who either want to go to African countries on vacation or want to go to African countries to live and work and support emerging markets need maybe some assistance from the outside world? How can this be more accessible and usable to people like myself who maybe want to come to Uganda or somewhere else, work for 6 months, support those local financial markets?
Yep, that's another good question. So for me, I'm an American living in South Africa. I don't operate in Rand. I operate in USD still. I get paid in USD. I pay for things right through my American bank accounts or credit cards. So I'm not incentivized to use Rand, obviously, because of the currency exchange, the exchange risk, and the volatility of that currency. But creating a system, building up the ecosystem of dollar will actually enable us to support people who travel, expats, people who want to come in and support those local economies. So, going back to Bitcoin, obviously, like I said, the costs and processing time are not advantageous for a lot of these consumers. But secondly, the user experience is poor. There aren't really any, platforms enabling good Bitcoin wallet usage and creating an experience for consumers who don't really understand cryptocurrency and, want to use it on a day-to-day basis. So what's really important about what we're doing is that Walla already is operating, right? We are a platform that brings in banking and other financial service providers. And in order to really drive value and adoption for any currency, you need to make sure that you continually add on more features and expand the ecosystem. So for us, it's one, getting the tokens in the hands of these consumers, getting them the wallet so that they can send these tokens to and from friends, transact in app. But secondly, then it's opening up merchants and other enterprises, enabling people to accept and move dollar from in person and in app. So for us, we actually have 30,000 point of sale merchants throughout Africa that are supporting dollar transactions. So through the Walla platform, you could go to a Pick and Pay, which is like a grocery store in South Africa. You could scan the Walla QR code and pay directly from your dollar wallet. So it's important to keep expanding the ecosystem because that's really the only way why a crypto token will end up getting adoption and create more value for a consumer. And at the end of the day for us, whether it's an expat, whether it's a consumer who lives in this market, we need to have a system that's competitive with cash. It's more economical, more efficient for consumers to operate in cash than it is to go to a bank. So for us, the biggest competitor is cash. We need to be cheaper than cash. We need to be more efficient, and we need to have a better experience than cash.
Being a good technical citizen, I've thoroughly researched your white paper, especially your white paper and your light paper, which thank you for having a light paper. It makes my job a lot easier. But you're based on the Ethereum blockchain, as I understand it, which is a great place to be. How do you respond to the news recently that CryptoKitties are threatening Ethereum-based transactions and making people think again about when they launch their ICOs? Do you think Ethereum is scalable enough, is solid enough for you to base a currency like it or a payment process like this on?
So we feel really confident in Ethereum as a protocol and where it's going. We utilize a big part of what of the dollar utility token is the Raiden network. So the Raiden network sits on top of Ethereum, and we sit on top of the Raiden network. It enables us to provide instantaneous and near-free transactions. The way we support zero-fee transactions is Walla coming in as a separate entry entity and covering the costs for those consumers. So as a whole, Ethereum, we believe, is on the right track. It's going to continue to expand and build out, and we feel confident about where it's at. CryptoKitties are very, bizarre. It's this weird thing that's probably going to die out soon. I think it's, one of those hype things.
It's a Pokemon Go of Ethereum, isn't it?
Yeah, it has and it's like the Tamagotchis, whatever those used to be called back in the day. There's a lot of hype, but it's going to die out. People will just get bored with it. That's what I'm assuming. And I think that, the ICO space is, it has changed drastically. It's very strange because we came into the space, I would say, when the hype was ending. So investor mentality changed. People started realizing that there are so many lemons in the market and that all these companies, quote unquote companies, are getting, $30 to $100 million and they have no product. They don't know what they're talking about. And now people are becoming more conservative, which is good. We need to start weeding out the lemons, and it's about execution. So just like CryptoKitties, I think the ICO is in a weird phase and it's going to start working itself out. So 2018 will be interesting for where cryptocurrency is going to go, but we'll see a lot of these tokens fail, and there'll be a few winners.
Even the failing tokens have produced absolutely amazing results anyway. So I think it is going to be an interesting time, as you say.
2017 has been the year of the ICO. Anybody could do it, and good or bad. Quite a lot of them are bad, some are good, and have produced fantastic results, and are supporting fantastic, solid solutions. I've certainly no reason to believe, looking through your white paper, that yours isn't a solid solution and is pitched a genuine need in the market to assist with the emerging market.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a little frustrating to see all of these token sales in the space. When you hear some of the use cases, it's just very bizarre. I have some friends in San Francisco. When we announced that we were going to do a token sale, they were like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so jealous. Everyone in San Francisco is desperately looking for an idea to do an ICO." There's just this hype that, people want to jump into it and will jump into it, even if they have no use case, no product, no idea, which is discouraging. But I think now I'm hoping that the crypto traders and backers and hedge funds and VCs who are coming in the space are becoming more conservative and recognizing that you can't just have an idea on paper. You need to actually have something in place because, all these initial companies who raise so much money have yet to really start delivering. And the issue is that they're sitting on $100 million and there's no urgency anymore. There's no reason why they have to kill themselves or push aggressively because they have all this money now.
That's such a shame, isn't it? There's so much potential, and then money, the thing that cryptocurrency is there to try and fix in a certain way, is make people think again. Oh no, I don't need to do it. I don't need to go and develop and build this great solution anymore. I can just kick my heels back and live off the interest.
Yeah, as an entrepreneur, you need to be hungry. You need to feel. You need to feel the burn in order to keep pushing yourself forward, and until you start generating revenue or creating value or whatever the case is, where you're in a more stable place. But to be sitting on loads of money, that's why we set up Dala the way that we did. So we actually brought on Newtown Partners. So Newtown Partners is a venture capital fund managed by Vinny Lingham from Civic and Lou Clayson, who's the executive director of the Bitcoin Foundation. And we brought
definitely big names in blockchain circles.
Yeah. So we brought them one. They saw a huge use case for us, and we had aligned vision of where we saw a utility token going for emerging markets, and so. We set a hard cap as the most money we would ever be willing to take because we didn't think it was responsible to take more. but we can execute on whatever we raise. But we designed our multi-sig wallet so that we all are on board and have voting rights. And, we set up a system for escrow so that we couldn't get all the money at once and that we would have to hit deliverables. And if we didn't, we would consider putting the money back to backers. So, I think in 2018, we'll start seeing the emergence of more ICO governance and more of these token sales being held accountable. And it will become hopefully more of a standard to have these things set in place so that all backers and everyone who's a part of this ecosystem feels that like they're adding value and that they're a part of it, because, that's the value of decentralized systems, right? No one has sole control. And the people now who are sitting on $100 million, it feels like they do have sole control.
That's kind of disappointing, isn't it? Disheartening that we've ended up creating the thing that we're trying to destroy, but in different pockets. And I'm, by the sounds of your approach, I'm really, really heartened, really pleased that you're addressing genuine sort of real world solutions in places where it's tough, and places I feel incredibly privileged not having to worry about the things that they worry about. But yeah, it's really really pleasing, something that I would be happy to support and happy to talk about, like we're doing today. And I thoroughly encourage our listeners to go check out your website, read through the white papers, ask if they've got any questions, because I'm sure you've got open channels for that, and really get involved and support you.
Awesome. Yes, thank you. Yeah, our token sale actually is closing on Monday, December 11th. If people are interested, they can visit tokensale.getwalla.com. I'm more than happy to answer any questions or connect with people.
Excellent. So if you downloaded the podcast and you're listening and it's after the 11th of December, just go and look at the white paper. But if it's before then I highly recommend you looking at the website. It's a pretty good website, and it's certainly something which has got our interest here at Blockchain headquarters, shall we say. Fantastic. That sounds like a really good venture and something we're going to keep watching as it goes on. What happens after December the 11th?
Good question. So we'll actually be, closing out the token sale. We're going to push out an update to all of our community backers on next steps based on how much we raise, the delivery, and what we plan to do in terms of executing. So what's exciting for us and what we're doing is the Dollar wallet will actually be live January this year, or 2018. So in a few months, consumers or users of the Walla app will actually be earning and transacting with Dollar. And that's, I think, pretty exciting for most of these ICOs, since a lot of people have to build out their products, and it could take a year or so to actually get tokens into the market. So as early as January, we'll have people transacting, remitting, and using the Dollar utility token.
Fabulous.
Thank you, Tricia. That's really, really good. And thanks for speaking to us tonight for me, and this afternoon and daytime for my colleagues. And yeah, we will really watch with interest. We will put links up on our podcast notes for our audience to get in touch with you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, you guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for taking the time to speak to us. And I hope you manage to have some fun on your vacation when you get to it.
Yes, a very much needed vacation.
Have a great break.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay,
bye, Tricia.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye, guys. Thanks.
Bye.
I'm Jamil Hasan. I'm a blockchain and cryptocurrency consultant. I focus on post-token optimization of the companies for my clients to help them grow their organization and bring value to their token.
And that specific value through using blockchain technologies?
Yes, they're using blockchain technologies. They're blockchain technology companies in a wide variety of sectors and industries. And my goal is to help them operationalize and become sustainable companies for the long haul.
Excellent. And what is your typical sort of customer?
Right now, it's been inventors and entrepreneurs, startups, focused on companies who are using, an open source blockchain. I have not really focused on the large private blockchain companies. I find more interest in the creativity and the innovation of the industry, and the creation and seeing these companies really take off. My primary goal is to, help people get jobs, and I see tremendous potential when these companies are up and growing, to cure some of the job problems we have, at least in the United States, if not globally.
Absolutely. And with this emerging technology, there's always room for new people to be coming in, training up, and getting into and providing services for this new technology.
And in areas that they care about and enjoy.
Exactly. That's the beauty of it. Blockchain can be used pretty much anywhere, and bringing it to the market and to the forefront of people's minds is always interesting. And is that sort of your role? Are you sort of an influencer?
I would say that's my effort to make this mainstream. I have a book that's coming out tomorrow, Small Business Mavericks, where I talk about that, and I talk about bringing cryptocurrency mainstream, having people understand what it is and the benefit it can do for our society in the area of business sustainability, and really making a difference and restructuring the economic growth that we haven't seen in a long time.
Excellent. So if I buy your book and I read your book, what am I going to learn?
You're going to learn why I'm in the industry, what skills and services I provide, why I provide them, and the way I can benefit your organization. Most of my conversations so far have been B2B, business to business, but I am I have created a meetup in Connecticut. I am talking to people actively all the time, trying to find out how their skills apply and to what companies, because there are so many new inventions and companies out there that anybody's skill set and background applies to any one of the companies. It's a matter of connecting them the right place. But I do talk about that, and I talk about how we can make this mainstream.
And what sort of opportunities are you dealing with at the moment?
I get a lot of requests to be an advisor.
Yeah.
I get a request to be, sustainability ambassador. I get, a lot of requests to be on boards and to help people however I can. I'm starting to notice people coming to me for the after token business growth and development, which is my area where I'm best at. I still get some requests for pre-token sale, advisory, help them determine what right blockchain is. I get less and less. I don't really touch I'm not really the facilitator of the movement of tokens. I don't want to be in that space. I want to be in that growth space, the helping the businesses build space. So I'm getting those opportunities now.
Fantastic. I'm just on your website, which is jamilhasan.com, which is JAMILHASAN.com for our listeners. And I see a number of ICOs up there. Do you want to talk us through some of those ICOs? Because I'm looking at Techy ICO, which is the next Microsoft of blockchain, which sounds quite interesting.
I deemed it as the next Microsoft. They are an incredible company. They're led by CEO Emmy Dow. I actually went to Vietnam in 2004 for about a month. And at that time, I started in Hanoi. I went through the whole entire country backpacking. When I was in Hanoi, besides eating a king cobra and, going to the puppet show and riding on some motorbikes, I noticed the whole entire economy at that time was based on tourism.
Yeah.
What Techy has done is they've created an environment and an economy that's growing based on STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. They've actually founded the Techy Academy, which teaches people STEM skills. And they also created robotic toys for children. But the benefit of that is that the children grow up learning STEM skills by playing with these robots. In the U.S., adults would play with the kids, and they too, people my age in the mid-40s who have another 20, 25 years to work, gain those STEM skills that will help provide them with opportunities for income for the next 25 years. You can only go on unemployment for 6 months, and there's been a lot of layoffs. So they can learn the skills, get the skill set they need for the new economy. So right now, Techy's price coin is about 16 cents. I see it being up there. It's a real great opportunity for people to learn and grow, and for the economy to move forward. I think they have a very strong team.
Fantastic. And you talked about the future. What do you see the future being with crypto technology and the blockchain being the backbone of business?
Yeah, there are so many. There are so many great projects out there. I've been mostly in the Bitcoin ecosystem, and a couple of weeks ago I went to a conference on social impact, and I got to a lot of the key players in the Aetherium area, and I'll tell you, there's a ton of intellectual capital in the Ethereum economy, and people with new ideas and great ideas all the time. I was blown away by the really, really, really smart people I met, and the projects they have, and their ideas. And I think as long as we keep fostering ideas and innovation, not stymie it, but embrace it, then there's going to be all kinds of opportunity coming down the pike.
We're certainly on the wave of something new, which is going to disrupt a lot of current business models. I can see that happening, and in all areas. I think that what is happening personally, what I see, is that the churn of new ideas and people getting involved with this is massive. And I liken it to something I said in the previous podcast, that a month ago, if I said to somebody Bitcoin or blockchain, they'd say, "Oh, that's guns and drugs and dark web, stay away from that." And now people are talking about this as a real way to invest money, and they want to know more. And I think there's a massive shift going on as people understand more about this, and it becomes more mainstream as blockchain and Bitcoin. But this then gives people the opportunity to see projects such as that and say, that's something I want to invest in. That's something I'm passionate about.
Yes, there's definitely a huge blue ocean opportunity here. The waves keep coming and coming and coming, and people have new ideas all the time, and people are seeing that it's okay and really great to have a new idea, and so they're coming up with the innovation and the projects, and the more and more people see that others are doing that, the more and more they're going to want to do it. I have an idea for an ICO. Someday we'll do it. And I was talking to people who wanted to have a class reunion with me, for high school. And I said, yeah, we should do reunion coin. And everybody's like, is that an app? I was like, no, it's a way to use the blockchain to stay in touch with people, So hopefully maybe somebody will take that idea I just put out there and run with it, But if I could come up with an idea, anybody can come with a great idea. So, and people have interest, in their passions and their hobbies, and, all of them can be tokenized. So, it's going to be a real game changer on the planet.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. And do you consult with big business to say, this is what you should be looking at, this is what you should be using in the future, and this is how you'd migrate to using blockchain to underpin your business?
I have had conversations with large corporations, yes. The focus that I found that has been for large corporations has been on a private blockchain. Now, the private blockchain does have a benefit for big businesses if they want to keep it private, and that is it reduces operational costs. It creates operational efficiency. I'm an operational efficiency expert, so I look at things that are inefficient processes and I want to automatically change them right away. What that can do is if a big company implements that blockchain, just for supply chain, just for operational efficiencies, they can reduce their costs. If they reduce their costs, they can put their money back into their sales and cost of goods sold part of their business, and then it can trickle down the whole entire income statement, and they can build and organically, build up company. There was a period of time in the U.S. where only growth was through mergers and acquisitions for about 13 years. There was no organic growth. Having the blockchain and supply chain efficiencies enables companies to organically grow. It might not be the 1,000x that we're seeing in a Bitcoin blockchain, but 100x, 10x, absolutely.
What does that look like for an implementation for an organization? For example, if they were going to rip out their current processes and put in a large system like SAP or something around that, that would mean that you've got investigation into the current processes, then you kind of mirror them, etc. Does blockchain help in that process and reduce that time frame, or is it pretty similar sort of implementation gestation period?
There are some great blockchains that are out there that are private. IBM has Hyperledger, which is very fast. Microsoft has adopted blockchain. You see commercials now. A lot of companies, and I just had a conversation with a man from Gartner this morning. They were working on something. So our companies are working on, the blockchains. My real passion and interest, lies in democratization and, democratization of jobs, giving people opportunities where they hadn't had them before. So that's more in line with the public, open sourced blockchain. But there are tremendous benefits to both. And, I see great opportunity and potential.
Fantastic. That's excellent. I was just looking on your website. You've got something about Fortitude Ranch here.
Yeah, Fortitude Ranch. They are an interesting case. They are an existing company with a strong team. And they, in case of natural disaster or a pandemic, what it is, it's really a facility people can go to. And they have an ICO, initial coin membership offering coming up really soon, and that gives people the opportunity to buy, tokens to go to the ranch in case of, say, there's a biological warfare or something, where people need to go to safety. So right now there's, safety for military, there's safety for, government, but there's no real safety for the common person like you or I. This gives people an opportunity to go into a facility in case of a disaster and, building a life and being okay and being safe. It's one of the great, things about cryptocurrency is, people, like I said earlier, people, associated with certain things. The association of cryptocurrency in this case is with safety. And like I said, a lot of the companies are new. A lot of startups out there are doing ICOs. This is a company that is in existence, a strong advisory team too. This one is a great opportunity for your common person.
Excellent. That's something very, very close to a lot of people's hearts, and certainly sounds interesting. And looking on your website, there's quite a few esteemed people connected with that as well.
Oh yeah,
that's pretty good. That's very interesting. Listeners, if you are sitting there in front of a computer, it's worth looking this up and just having a quick read about that. It's certainly very interesting. Are there any opportunities you haven't worked with for any reason?
Just volume. I said some days I won't. Some days I'll get a few phone calls. Some days I'll get 70. I put together. I have a scheduler now who works for me, so he helps me out with my schedule. I just get some days I just get bombarded, but there are a lot of great inventors and entrepreneurs out there who have great ideas. So I can't talk to everybody; it's impossible. But I talk to as many people as I can and learn what they're doing and help them out, and see how I can help their business.
That's great. And what motivated you to write a book about it?
I worked for AIG for 11 years. I was laid off in June. I survived several rounds of layoffs, but not like round number 8. 2.5 years ago, the CEO of the company came into our office in Wilton, and it was a thriving business, thriving technology area. My mode of operations was plow, get things done. He came into our office and said, I used to think the most important thing about any company was the employees. I was wrong as the clients. You guys don't mean too much to me. We looked at each other, we were confused, but then what that meant was that we were going to have a lot of round of layoffs. So I learned how to overcome office grief. I learned how to get along with people better. I learned that every single person is a big deal. As people were let go, I took on projects that, most people wouldn't want to touch because they were behind schedule or over budget, and I got them done. I built was one of the team that built the CCAR projections platform. So we built a whole entire financial projections platform from scratch. I used my data skills to help build that. And we were able to pay back $25 billion to investors. That was a great accomplishment. I said, I can do that. I'm a technology manager. I enjoy this stuff. I enjoy the project management. And I saw a lot of projects being created in the blockchain space. And I said, my skills as a project manager and my data skills are a perfect fit for this area. So let me give it a shot. And there's been, a lot of activity in the area, and I'm just happy to be in the space,
Absolutely. It seems like leaving the company was sort of a blessing at the right time.
It was a blessing, yes. There have been a lot of layoffs by companies over the past year or two. You don't really hear about them too much, but the job boards are full. So people are out of work, and they do need to work, and they need to work for the next 20, 25 years. And I said, I know the blockchain, I know the data, I know operations, I am strong in those areas, finance. I can help not only blockchain industry be sustainable, but I can help people get jobs again.
Yeah, I think that's very interesting, because I think most of us have read the reports from Gartner about robots taking our jobs in the next 10 years, and statistics like 48% being talked about. But the more we learn about blockchain collectively, the more we realize that the model of work we understand today is probably going to be quite different with the blockchain, where people work on multiple projects at the same time for different customers. And there are platforms out there which allow the remuneration to come through based on what people have done. Perhaps that's measured through the time they've actually developed, or some other measure. What do you see the changing way of us working over the next 5 to 10 years being?
Yeah, I don't see us going to the office anymore. And some people go to the office, but I don't see the predominant way of working being going to the office. I think we're going to use those robots. I think we're going to use the AI and the IoT and all the transformation that's going on, and we're going to build our own practices and our own businesses, and we'll be in partnership, of course, with others, and it'll be collaborative, and that'll be great. But we're going to be doing some tremendous things for the sustainability and the planet, and we're going to break down, I believe, those cross-border structures that were set up. We're going to collaborate with other countries. I'm on the advisory board for Techy there in Vietnam. I get conversations. I have conversations with people recently in Japan. I collaborate with people in India. So it's really breaking down those borders and restructuring the way business is done. I think it's going to be a really, really exciting time. I'm grateful to be part of it.
Absolutely, and I totally agree. It's going to be an interesting time to see what actually comes out of it, and the opportunities as well, where I remember back in 2001 speaking to Microsoft about their project methodology, where they talked about self-electing teams. Well, this gives us the opportunity to have self-electing teams that can be independent from each other, but work on the project which best meets their skills at that particular time. And I think that's quite exciting, because we not only do we get better value for money, but we also get a better team experience for projects to actually get the work done.
I agree completely. You know, the team I'm on, I want to talk about the team I'm on for Asset Token. Very strong team. You know, we have some really great advisors from around the planet, and you know that team, the leaders of that team of Asset Token put it together, and you know, I'm really excited to be on a team of really incredible people.
Can you expand a bit more on Asset Token? It sounds quite exciting.
Yes. Well, you know, right now, people get rewards points on their credit cards. And a lot of people, millions of people, don't really use those reward points. So what end up happening is they end up being very large liabilities on the banks, you know, MasterCard, Visa, the banks, balance sheets. You know, they got to pay those liabilities off. So what Asset Token has created, it's created a way for, you know, the banks to remove those liabilities from their balance sheet and put it through the Asset Token portal, and you know, really put money back into the banks. So we're helping the banks, which is a really good thing, because what it does is it helps the people as well. So if you have a credit card and you have rewards points, so you have 8,000 rewards points, you can't monetize those rewards points. If we're using the ERC20 token, or using the Aetherium token currency, you're able to get those reward points in tokens, in currency, pay off your credit card debt. As the value of that token increases and more people use it, you're going to pay it off faster. You're going to pay off your credit cards faster. The bank's going to pay off their liabilities faster. It's going to help, you know, spark the economy and growth and spending. You know, a lot of people don't really talk about spending. They talk about cutting costs. This is a way to reverse that trend and have the banks and the companies spend, and have people spend and pay off. You know, say for Christmas this year, I'm going to buy some presents for my children, in addition to what Santa's going to bring. You know, it might take me 5-6 years to pay off something. With Asset Token, it might take me 5-6 months or 5-6 days, depending on how valuable that token is. But we're going to give people the opportunity to get money. You know, so that's a real game changer.
That's absolutely perfect. And a good friend of mine a while ago looked at his air miles and the other points and said, these are not doing anything. So he converted all of the ones he could into money, and then just put that money, because it's dead money, into Bitcoin. And that's actually how he got interested in Bitcoin. And now he's quite a prolific member of the Bitcoin society, shall we say, just because of that. And yeah, if you're out there, listeners, and you're thinking, oh gosh, I've got lots of points, this could be the way of actually turning them into cash, and cash that can actually work for you. And it simplifies it. And that's the beauty of it. It's the simplification of standard things we should be doing every day. But I've got a Ward wallet, and that's got 20 different programs where I've got different points. And I'm just trying to keep on top of it. If I could have one way of just saying, right, convert all of that into some sort of usable cash, that would make a lot of sense. And I click on that and do that tomorrow.
The other thing it does is it actually brings value and increases the value of the Ether. So there are a lot of great projects out there on the planet that deal with the social impact, and, you know, like Zaha, and others, that make a difference for humanity, that we're going to be able to perhaps finance or fund through the increase in value of the Ether.
That's even better. That's good. And so the banks must be pretty much on board with that and supporting that?
Yes. Yeah, the business case is there. So it's not just the idea. It is a working business case that is well thought out, well planned out. And like I said, the companies that I happen to have the fortunate opportunity to be advisor to, ambassador to, they are viable businesses that have a sustainable growth platform and program. So it's really exciting to see. I like to see the fruits of my work. So it'll be an opportunity for me to see how these companies grow and build over time, and being part of it, is really exciting to me.
Absolutely. I think that's something where you can wake up in the morning and be excited and say, yep, right, today we're going to make a difference and do something important.
Yeah.
It's good. So if anybody listening is interested, that's Asset Token, which you've just been talking to. If any of our listeners want to get in touch with you, they've got an idea, how do they do that, Jamil?
My email is www.jamilhasan, JamilHasan.com. You can send me a note through my website. Send me an email, jamil@jamilhasan.com. Or look me up on LinkedIn. Any one of those three. I also have a Instagram and Twitter, CT Crypto, which is Connecticut Crypto, and my goal there is to help bring the infrastructure and ecosystem to the state. Because right now I'm the crypto guy in the middle of all the private equity guys. So, hopefully we can get the private equity guys interested.
Fantastic. That's good. And where is the best place we can buy your book from so that you get the most value?
It's Small Business Mavericks. My publisher's putting out, it's being published tomorrow, Thursday, and then she's putting it out next week. Alicia Dubrow with Insight Media. She's a great publisher. And I guess Google it. She hasn't given me the link yet. So Google it. I'm going to put it on my website. When it comes out after tomorrow, it's going to be on a link to it's going to be on my website, and download it.
Fantastic. Yeah. And tomorrow is the 30th of November. So depending on when you're listening to this podcast, it might be available for you now. You can search on the website for that and find out more about it. Excellent. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Listeners, jamilhasan.com. That's the website. Go and have a look. Find out more information. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, sir.
You too.
Thank you. And I'm sure we'll catch up with you sometime in the future to see how the book's selling and any of your new projects which you're getting involved with.
Thank you very much. Sounds good to me.
Thank you. And thank you all for listening. Cheers.
Are you looking for an easy way to buy Bitcoin or Ether on a safe, secure platform? Coinbase is the easiest place to buy and sell digital currencies. Sign up today as a friend of the Blockchain Show, and if you buy or sell $100 of Bitcoin or more, you'll earn $10 of free Bitcoin for yourself and $10 of Bitcoin to support this show. Join now using the link in this episode's show notes at theblockchainshow.com. To learn more, visit theblockchainshow.com.